Imagine the most trustworthy man on Wall Street. He's not a flashy young tech billionaire in a hoodie, promising to change the world. No, he's a titan of industry. He is a man in his 70s who is impeccably dressed in bespoke suits and has a calm, reassuring demeanor. He is a former chairman of the NASDAQ stock exchange. He pioneered electronic trading. Regulators ask him for advice. The wealthiest families in Palm Beach and the most exclusive country clubs beg him to manage their money. Giving your life savings to Bernie Madoff wasn't considered risky. It was a privilege. It was the closest thing to a sure thing in finance. Fast forward to a cold night in December 2008. This Wall Street titan sits in his luxurious Manhattan penthouse. He calls his two sons, Mark and Andrew, both grown men who work on the legitimate side of his business, into the room. He looks tired. The global financial system is collapsing outside. Looking at his sons, he calmly drops the facade he has maintained for 4 decades. He tells them it's all just one big lie. The trading strategy, it doesn't exist. The steady, consistent returns year after year, they were typed up. The $64 billion that his clients thought they had in their accounts, it's gone. All of it. He hadn't invested any of his clients' money for perhaps 20 years. This isn't just a story about theft. It's a story about how a pillar of the financial establishment was actually the architect of the biggest and most devastating Ponzi scheme in history. This is the story of how Bernie Madoff stole $64 billion, destroyed thousands of lives, and ultimately sacrificed his own family on the altar of his ego. Welcome to the ultimate financial fraudster. To grasp the scale of the deception, you must understand the man behind it. Unlike Sam Bankman-Fried or Elizabeth Holmes, Bernie Madoff wasn't an outsider trying to break into the club. He built the club. Starting in the 1960s with the pennies he had saved from working as a lifeguard, he established a legitimate brokerage firm. He was innovative. He was one of the first to use computers for stock trading, helping to create the modern NASDAQ. His legitimate business made him millions. He was respected, even revered. This legitimacy was his greatest weapon. It was the cloak he used to hide the monster underneath. Alongside his legitimate business, he ran a secretive investment advisory arm. This was the black hole. He cultivated an air of extreme exclusivity. He didn't advertise. You couldn't just walk in and invest with him. You had to be invited. If you asked too many questions, he would threaten to remove you from the fund. This reverse psychology was brilliant. It made people desperate to give him their money, terrified of losing their place. His returns weren't astronomically high. That would have aroused suspicion. They were impossibly steady, year in, year out, in a good market or a bad one. Bernie delivered a solid 10-12%, like clockwork. In the volatile world of finance, this level of consistency is the holy grail. It was also a mathematical impossibility. So, how did he manage it? How do you fake $64 billion? The Ponzi scheme is a stupidly simple mechanism. You rob Peter to pay Paul. When a new investor gave Bernie $1 million, he didn't invest it in stocks. He put it into a Chase Manhattan bank account. When an existing investor wanted to withdraw some of their profits, he simply took money from that account and sent it to them. As long as more money was coming in than going out, the illusion was maintained. But Madoff did it on an industrial scale. In a separate office building in Manhattan on the 17th floor, a floor that many regular employees didn't even know existed and which wasn't accessible via the main lift, Madoff ran a fake paper factory. He employed uneducated, low-level workers to sit there all day and fabricate trading records. When a client wanted to view their portfolio, Madoff's team would consult yesterday's newspaper to determine which stocks were performing well and which were underperforming. They would then create fake trades to make it appear as though they had purchased at the lowest point and sold at the highest. They printed millions of pages of fake statements. They even programmed an old IBM computer to generate these fake reports automatically. It was like something from a Hollywood set, a two-dimensional facade designed to fool the world. And it worked for decades. The question everyone is asking is, how did nobody notice? How did the SEC, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the financial police, miss the biggest crime in history happening right under their noses? The sad truth is that they were warned. multiple times. As early as 1999, a brilliant financial analyst named Harry Markopolos figured it out. Upon examining Madoff's returns, he realized they were mathematically impossible. He sent the SEC detailed reports essentially saying, Bernie Madoff is running the world's biggest Ponzi scheme. Here is the proof. The SEC ignored him. Why? Because Madoff was one of them. He was the former NASDAQ chairman. He was the former chairman of NASDAQ. He was the establishment. The regulators were intimidated by him. When they did investigate, Madoff would charm them, drop names and intimidate the junior investigators. They never did the one simple thing that would have put a stop to it all. They never called the bank to check if the money was actually there. Furthermore, Madoff preyed on his own community. He targeted wealthy Jewish philanthropies, country clubs, and charities. This is called affinity fraud. People trusted him because he was one of us. He stole retirement funds from teachers, life savings from elderly widows, and endowment funds from hospitals. It wasn't just money he stole futures. A Ponzi scheme is like a shark in that it has to keep moving and eating new money or it dies. Madoff's scheme survived crashes and wars, but it couldn't survive the global financial crisis of 2008, when the markets collapsed. Investors everywhere panicked. They needed cash. Suddenly, Madoff's clients started demanding their money back, billions of dollars all at once. The Chase Manhattan bank account was running dry. Madoff was desperate. He tried to raise money from new investors, but the well had dried up. By December 2008, he knew it was all over. He had only $200 million left, while clients were demanding $7 billion. The game was up. The story comes full circle, bringing us back to that penthouse. After confessing to his sons, Mark and Andrew, they did the only thing they could. They turned their own father into the FBI. Bernie was arrested the next morning while still in his bathrobe. The shockwaves of the news went around the world. The 64 billion figure was broadcast everywhere, though most of that was fake profits that people thought they had. The actual cash lost was around $20 billion, still an astronomical sum. The fallout was apocalyptic. People who thought they were wealthy woke up destitute. Charities were forced to close their doors. Bernie pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 150 years in prison, effectively a life sentence. But his punishment didn't end there. The tragedy of Madoff is that his greed destroyed everything he claimed to love. His wife, Ruth, was ostracized by society and left with almost nothing. His younger son, Andrew, died of cancer a few years later, believing his father's stress had caused his illness. In the darkest chapter of this saga, unable to bear the shame, lawsuits, and suspicion of his involvement, his older son, Mark, took his own life exactly 2 years after his father's arrest. Bernie Madoff died in a prison hospital in 2021. His story is the ultimate lesson in financial history. It teaches us that credentials, fancy suits, and a reputation for genius mean nothing if the numbers cannot be verified. It proves that if something seems too good, too steady, or too consistent to be true, it is undoubtedly a lie. Madoff didn't just build a financial house of cards, he built a tomb for his legacy and his family. The cost of his lie wasn't just 64 billion, it was the complete moral bankruptcy of a man who threw away everything he had for an illusion.